Today, I'm excited to have David Imonitie with me. David's an author and sought-after speaker who has had global impact through his organizational humanitarian efforts and with his businesses, which have inspired millions of people. David's influence has helped bring in billions of dollars of revenue to multiple organizations throughout his career. He is the founder of Believe Nation and the I Believe Foundation, which provides humanitarian aid and training around the world through provisions of clean water, food, essential supplies, and training. And David, I'm a big fan of that. Every book we do, 100% of the launch profits go to those type of humanitarian efforts. So that's very exciting to me. Through a unique belief system and leadership style, David can help people, any person, organization, get to the next level of success. He is the author of 2 books, Conceive, Believe, and Achieve, which is so powerful, and Believe Nation, the belief of a nation. And I am honored to be part of David's big event, February 4, 5, and 6 in Houston, Texas, with John Maxwell, Michelle Williams, a Destiny's Child, Dr. Caroline Leaf, and many others. And so I'm excited to have you with us today. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Thank you for having me. Definitely excited to be on the show with you, and definitely consider it a privilege just based on who you've had on this podcast. Honored that you would ask me to be a part of it.
Hey, I'm excited as well. What you have done is amazing, and I've been inspired. I was listening to an audio recently that I found on audio book, and it was, I'm taking notes. I'm sitting there going, this is so powerful. And the key is I resonate with what you're talking about. You're very principle-based. We met through good friends of mine, Paul Counts and Sharia Banerjee, and they said, you know, David's a big Jim Rohn fan, which always tells me a lot about a person. That's kind of a shortcut I use to filter if someone's principle-based, what their philosophy is. Right. And on one of your calls promoting the event, and I'm just sitting there nodding my head the whole time saying, I am in total alignment with what you guys are doing. And David, you've accomplished so much at such a young age. But before we get into some of the tactics and strategies that you're going to help our listeners with, I do want to get a little background. Tell us your story. I'm sure you had to overcome some obstacles. So how did you go from where you started, part of the journey, to now doing 8 figures annually with your business?
Yeah, you know, I was born at a very young age, and so I'll start at the very beginning. Born to two amazing parents. I'm a junior, so my dad, David, and my mom, Kumbi. And I was born in the States, but probably I was about 6 weeks old. We moved back to Nigeria. So I'm originally from Nigeria, and lived there for 10 years. And my life consisted of church, school, and tennis. Because my dad played professional tennis. He was actually number one, number 2 in Africa for a very, very long time. So I grew up with a celebrity, and that was fun. 1993, my mom made a very pivotal decision to move back to the United States. So we packed up, myself, my mom, my 2 sisters, and we moved to New York and spent 7 years there. It was challenging initially because here I am, a young kid from Nigeria, not familiar with this country. My accent was a little different. People butchered my name. Every attendance that every time homeroom came around, it was like, oh my God. And, but, you know, went through that and eventually adjusted and things got better. And I think I always had a knack for leadership. Didn't quite know that at the time, but I think I always did. And we moved to Houston, Texas. I went on to college in North Carolina. And that's where I think what I thought was so bad at the time was God really putting things in place to put me in the right position. I dropped out of school. I don't usually tell people that. I tell them I graduated as a sophomore. But as you know, that didn't come with a degree. And at 21 years old, I was introduced to relationship marketing, direct sales, the direct sales industry. And that was my first introduction to Jim Rohn. If you don't know this audio and you're in my profession, then you're not in my profession. Building your network marketing business, I listened to it over and over and over and over and over again. I felt like I knew Jim. I never had the pleasure of actually meeting him. But that was the start of this 18-year journey that I've been on of personal growth and personal growth in leadership, personal growth in my belief systems, and being able to now impact other people is what brings me the biggest joy. And that's the reason why I started Believe Nation, was to have an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of other people through the power of belief and through the heart of a leader. And it's been exciting.
Love that. There's so many directions I would love to go with that. I'm a tennis player. Me and my son still play.
Okay.
He played in high school at South Lake Carroll. I played when I was young. So I'm thinking 93. What was that? Was that Sampras or was that after Sampras? And
that was Sampras coming up. That was like, yeah, he was early 90s. He was coming into his own. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
I'll tell you, my favorite, you'll know him. Ivan Lendl was my favorite.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Ivan Lendl was amazing. And yeah, so today's really fun to watch the big three who have just dominated. And of course, we're talking men's tennis, women's tennis is incredible. I still play, and at 60, that keeps me fairly young, right?
You look good.
On top of it. Do you play some?
I do, not as often as I used to, but when I get out there, it's like riding a bike. It just comes.
And you mentioned building your network marketing business. I often talk on the show about serendipity, God downloads, God whispers. That was, if I had to say top 5 God downloads, that was one of them. And it really took 4 years to actually put that together because I was so clear on what I wanted with that. And I couldn't even tell Jim I was going to do it because he would have vetoed it because of life. So I had to get the right recording where he kept leaving out the story of the seed and the sower at all his talks. And I'm like, I can't do this without that story. And we finally got it. And all you had to do was get it in some leaders' hands, and the rest was magic.
Yes.
And I give that to entrepreneurs. I give it to people in direct sales. And so I'm glad you got to witness that with Jim, because that is such a profound training. David, you not only broke the $1 million a year mark, I think you broke the $1 million a month mark. But what was the gap between starting and making your first 7 figures, and then the gap from 7 figures to 8 figures?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember listening to an audio by Mark Yarnell, and it was talking about the quantum leap. How do people make the quantum leap? And why is it that so very few people ever make the quantum leap? And there's truly a secret to it. There's truly a reason why people don't get to $100,000 a year. And if they ever get to $100,000 a year, they don't get to $1 million a year. And if they ever do get to $1 million a year, they don't get to $1 million a month. And if they ever get to $1 million a month, they don't get to $1 million a week or $1 million a day. There's a reason for that. And I'm so glad that I found out what that reason is. I'm ecstatic that I know it. And what it really comes down to, and it's a word that everybody knows, but they don't practice it every single day. And it really comes down to autosuggestion. You're only going to believe what you hear. What you hear on a consistent basis is what you're going to believe. So we set limitations. I decided a long time ago that I was not going to set limitations on what was possible. So people struggle to get to $100,000 a year because they have set the limitation that they can't get there, or it's so difficult to get there. And people that do get there, they do the same thing that people do that don't get to $100,000 a year. They set limitations on why they can't get to $1 million a year. And same thing with people that get to $1 million a year. They set limitations on why they can't get to $1 million a month. So once I understood that, It took me some years to understand it because I started at 21. I didn't make my first million until I was 27. So there was a maturation process, and it's a process that you have to go through, but more importantly, that you have to grow through. So it was putting in the work, the mental work and the physical work. It was, going to every single event, reading the books, listening to the audios, and doing it over and over and over again, looking for the right information, searching for the right information. And then I'll tell you this, finding a mentor was huge because now I had close proximity to what I had been believing for, what I had been dreaming and hoping for. Now there was someone physical in front of me that had the life that I was dreaming about. So now it became more real, it became more tangible. And I think that's where things really start to take off.
Again, so powerful. And when you talk about auto-suggestion, and there's a fine line between goals, intentions, the compound effect, these are all nuances, right?
Yeah.
And I had a couple of people recently that have done mega big things that said, we don't really set goals. We just every day try and have purpose. And then I've heard you speak where you talk about using the word in desire, in belief. How close to that is it goals, or is that different than goals? Like when you begin with the new person, how much of it is having a goal, or how much of it is actually rewiring how you think?
Yeah, it's both, because you have to rewire the way you think in order to accomplish the goal. Individuals that would say, we don't really set goals anymore. It's really more about purpose. I don't disagree with that. But I can promise you this, before they got to that way of thinking, they set a lot of goals. So I don't speak to people from where it is that I am today. I speak to people from where I was when I was living with my dad, when I was struggling and I had $1,000 to my name and I didn't have a car and I didn't have a driver's license. And I speak from that place and I show them, what did I do to get to 10 grand a month, to get to 100 grand a month, to get to that level of income? Because those principles, they work in finance, but they also work in your family. They also work in your relationships. They also work with your relationship with God. It's the same strategies, same techniques. It's just a matter of you deciding to utilize it in that area of your life. And, when we created Believe Nation, we wanted to really help people with their spiritual awareness. We wanted to help people with their emotional strength. Mental illness right now is something that is running rapid with a lot of people right now. But I understand that your faith and your belief system is what's going to allow you to live the life that you truly want to live. So I do believe in absolutely setting goals, but you have to rewire the mind, who it is that you are, in order to accomplish those goals that you have.
I totally agree. And I think everyone's different, right? And it's important for people to figure out what works for them.
Sure.
Jim Rohn would say, some people you have to say, slow down a little bit, right? You're moving so fast that you're missing the most important things. And you actually, again, people are starting over because they're moving so fast instead of, I've always believed slow growth is fast growth if you do it right.
Right.
And then some other people, you got to say, hey, come on, speed up a little bit, right? And so when you're running an organization as a leader, I'm sure you recognize you have all these different personalities, people from different places. Do you have any strategies on how you manage that, of the people that need to speed up and the people that need to slow down?
Well, leadership is not one size fits all. And leadership for me is obviously about influence. But in order for me to have influence with a person, I first have to have a relationship with that person. And in that relationship, there has to be trust. So people are going to be at different phases in their lives. There are going to be some people that I'm leading right now that maybe they're just starting out as entrepreneurs. People that have been, maybe entrepreneurs for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So it's going to be different strategies that you're going to use for different people. And it's not a cookie cutter. But I will say this, when I am leading people, I tell people this, I don't know what's best for you, but I want what's best for you. And I'm only going to speak to you from a place that is going to benefit you based on the experience that I've had. I came up with an acronym for leader, and it starts with love. I don't think you can lead people unless you love them. I don't think you can add value to people unless you love them. I think a leader has to have that. And then a leader has to have the ability to set expectations. If I don't set an expectation, and that goes back to setting goals and having a vision. I have an expectation on that person. I make sure they have an expectation of themselves, a vision of where it is that they want to go, a goal that they're setting. And then what are the action steps? That's the A in leader. What are the action steps that we need to take in order to reach those expectations and that vision that you have? And then over the process of time, you will develop discipline. Every leader must have discipline. If you're going to accomplish your goals in life, if you have goals when it comes to your family, goals when it comes to your business, there has to be discipline in place. It's impossible for you to succeed without that. And then what's going to happen is through discipline, you're going to have something called experience. You're going to have experiences that you can now call on, experiences of failure, for sure, and experiences of success that you'll be able to call on that will allow you to now start to help other people with this journey. And then I do believe that every leader has to have results. I don't think we can call you a leader unless you have results. And those results are not your own personal results, but it's a track record of people that you've helped along the way grow, to develop and become more than what they are. And that's how I lead. That acronym right there, if I can take a person through that, then I know we've done something great.
The world you're in really does require high personal development skills.
Yeah.
But it also helps you refine your personal development skills, because in the beginning, you had to learn to communicate, sell, network. But then as you build a team, you have to learn to lead, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know by listening to your stuff and watching you, and by the way, you have a prolific Instagram and Facebook following. You're constantly doing videos. So I encourage people to go find David on Instagram and Facebook as well. But, when you're in that process of going down that path of building this huge organization, I think you pinpointed the need to become a good leader and the need to become a good communicator. And did you see you start to shift the focus of your skill sets? Yes, you still want to recruit, you still want to tell the story, but now you're building a team, and sometimes you have to give yourself permission to readjust where you're at and what the highest priority is.
Of course. Yeah. At this level now, it's really more about building a culture and building an environment of growth, an environment of unity, an environment of trust. And it's challenging because, like Jim said, it's like herding cats, and it's hard. It's not, I don't think leadership is for the faint of heart. I think you have to have the patience of Job when it comes to how you work with people. I don't believe you handle people, but I believe that you work with them, and you work with them based on where it is that you are. And I've also learned to give people a break. Understand that it is a process, understand that they're not all going to walk and run at the same time, but you be patient with the process. You be patient with their process and make sure you're there for them regardless of what it takes. As long as there's that trust, I think it takes 2 to 5 years to really develop a great leader. But most people are not willing to pay that price. And that's why a lot of people don't get the prize.
And another cool thing about what you've built and the industry itself is you can do a training and impact, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people and not worry about where they're on the journey. Like, you can show up and give, and those that are ready that day to take what you shared, they'll go run with it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you're having to say one-on-one, I got to make this guy or this lady succeed. You can, what a great way to make a living, that you can show up and bring massive value, impact people. There's a friend of mine that has a big real estate organization in Southern California, 150 people. And he does a 2-3 hour training every day, has a lot of Jim Rohn videos. And sometimes it's his top agent that shows up. Sometimes it's the person that's never sold a home. Right. And he didn't have to worry about it. He just gets to bring value And those that want to come to the buffet table get the benefit. And I've always thought that's really cool. Now more than ever, we have the tools to bring a ton of value to a lot of people.
Technology.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Technology has made it seamless. Zoom, I was very fortunate to get involved in Zoom from an investment standpoint when they first became public. So I knew it was going to be, a game changer. So, hey guys, keep using Zoom. Do not stop using Zoom. But it's, I wrote down a goal, Kyle, in 2013. I just come off a multiple 7-figure year. This is back in 2012. And I felt fulfilled because, I had been fighting for so long for what I considered what success was, financial success. But there was a level of, I wouldn't say emptiness, but there was more that I wanted. It wasn't just about the money anymore. And I wrote down this goal to positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. And what I actually said on there was that, Lord, when they see me, I want them to see you. And when they hear me, I want them to hear you. And I've been on that journey now. It's my 9th year. And I know for a fact there's been millions of people that we've been able to impact. And it's going to get to 1 billion because my goal is to positively really work with 1,000 leaders that go out and impact 1 million people. And that will give us the billion mark that we're looking for. So it's just a change of focus of how can I give value to people? That's why, when you were gracious enough to invite me on this podcast, the answer was an immediate yes, because it's another opportunity for me to impact someone that's watching this that otherwise wouldn't know who I was.
That's such a powerful focus and goal to have. And Jim used to tell me, not on stage, but tell me backstage, and he meant it. He said, I want to be the guy that impacts the few that impact the many. Now, you can define few however you want, but when you impact Tony Robbins and Darren Hardy and this long list of people, David Imonitie, he accomplished that goal. And by that goal, he will probably have impacted 1 billion before it's all said and done. People like yourself are impacting so many. So I congratulate you for that goal. And let me ask you this, David. What do you consider to be your secret sauce? Like what, if you had to get it down to 1 or 2 things, you think, okay, I'm pretty world class at that. That's what I'm really good at.
My secret sauce is belief. It is belief. That is my secret sauce, but it's threefold. And I call it the pyramid of belief. My foundation is my belief in God. I had an encounter in 2010 that would forever change my life. And I was literally in tears for 9 days. 9 days just crying because I knew for a fact that I had an encounter. And so that belief of knowing God and knowing that he's on the inside of me led to the second side, the second part of that pyramid, which is the belief in myself. Because I know he's in me, and because I have so much belief in him and I know he's in me, that automatically leads to me believing in myself. So I don't set limitations on myself. I just had a meeting with a former business partner of mine. He was a business manager of mine. And he didn't understand that. He could not get with that way of thinking. And I had to let him go. I said, we're not on the same wavelength thinking, and your thinking is going to impact what it is that I'm looking to do here. I don't set limitations. I don't think realistically. What's realistic? My life's not realistic today. I wasn't thinking realistically when I was living with my dad and had $1,000 to my name. If I was thinking realistically, do you know what I would have been thinking about? The fact that I have $1,000 and I'm living with my dad. No, I was thinking out of this world. So I'm not going to change the way that I think because I'm now living in what you consider to be out of this world. No, there's another out of this world. And when I get to that world, there's another out of this world because it's unlimited. This force, this power that we have on the inside of us it is unlimited. It created the sun, it created the moon, it created the sea. So what's $1 million a day? I mean, if the forest can create the sun and create every animal, and create every living thing, 7 billion people on this planet, if the forest can even allow us to talk, allow us to listen, what's $1 million a day? Why would I say, what's a private jet? What's a Rolls Royce? What's a Ferrari? Those are small things compared to what we're already accomplishing just right now, listening to each other, talking to each other. This is a greater miracle than making $1 million a day. It is. Yeah. And people don't realize that. So the belief in myself, and then guess what? My belief in people. Because the same God that's in me, right? And the same God that I believe, he's in you as well. So now my goal is, how can I bring your awareness of that power that's on the inside of you? Once I grow the awareness and then you accept it, now you can start the process of reconditioning. And when you start the process of reconditioning, at some point, you're going to be conditioned to only think big.
Preach it.
That's
good
your
stuff,
book, right? That's your book that's coming out. You like that?
Yeah, I do. I love it. Think Big. And David's going to be part of that book. And you know why now. So David, thinking big, dreaming big. We know people do that and it's powerful, but then you also have to take action. Yes. And how do you handle that with people that they are thinking big, but you're not ever seeing them take action? Do you say you got to get to work? Or because again, that's hard to watch too, right? Is when someone is attending every event, you know, they're spending most of their time on personal development and not taking action. Yeah. How do you reconcile those two?
You know, the truth of the matter is, if a person tells me they're thinking big, but they're not taking action, they're really not thinking big. They think they're thinking big. Faith without works is dead. So you cannot say you have faith and not have the works to back it up. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when someone says, I'm thinking big, usually when it follows with, I'm thinking big, but it's not working. That's usually what people say. I'm thinking big, but it's not working. The moment you said it's not working, you let me know that you're not thinking big. What you're actually thinking is it's not working. Because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Does that make sense? Someone says, all right, David, I get that thinking big works. Now the question is, how do I think big? What are some of the things that I do that will gear my thinking towards what it is that I want? And a belief is created 3 ways. It's created through the words we speak, the images that we look at, and the emotions that we have. That's really the work. The work is now, do I find the right words? I have words in my office. I have words in my home. I have signs, like on my office right here, I have the sign, I positively impact the lives of 1 billion people. You come to my home, you'll see pictures of jets, you'll see pictures of homes, you'll see Bugattis. I have pictures, I have images all around me. It's in my shower. It's in my bathroom. It's in my closet. It's everywhere. It's on my bedside. I see it all the time. I'm constantly creating the future. And then my emotions are one of love and gratitude. All right. Now, once I've created this, now it's, okay, what are the skill sets that I need to take? What are the skills that I need to master? Because I can't say I want to earn $1 million and not be skilled at what it takes to make $1 million in whatever profession that I'm in. So now I start that process, but I'm not starting the process from a place of, is it going to work? Maybe it's going to work. No, I already believe that it's worked. Now I'm just doing the work. Now I'm just doing the physical part that's going to catch up with the spirit world that I've already created. And this is what I love to teach. I love it because people think that this real world is what came first. No, it's the spirit world that comes first. I had a breakthrough in 2021. 2021 was a tough year for me. I had a tragedy in my family, lost my little sister. She passed away. Okay. And it was tough, but I had one of the most profound breakthroughs in 2021. I was sitting with a group of people, and they were constantly talking about their past. They were constantly talking about what had gone wrong. And I had to interrupt them and say, why do you guys keep talking about the past? I said, look up the definition of the word past. And one of the definitions said that past meant that it was no longer existing. So I said, what you're doing is you're talking about something that no longer exists. But because you are talking about it, it does exist. Because I said, let's look up the word future. And Kyle, I would recommend anybody who's listening to this podcast, go to the dictionary. Jim said it, right? There are two types of people on this planet, people that read the dictionary, people that don't. I'm one of those that read the dictionary.
Okay.
He said, I looked up the word future. And you know what it said? It said it's the time or period of time following the moment of speaking or writing. The future is the moment following what I say and what I write. I'll give you a case in point, this podcast that we're doing. The future was created first. You opened your mouth and said, David, would you come on my podcast? I said, yes. That's the future, right? It was spoken. Now we're doing this podcast, we're in the present. And when we get off, it will be in the past. So it's all the same. The future, the past, the present, they're all the same. They're regarded as whole. They're regarded as time. So now I said, wow, I see why. I always knew, but I'm like, man, this is why everything has happened for me. It's because this is what I spoke. This is what I wrote down. That's why I don't put any limitations on what I want.
And that's so powerful. And I see this combination of think big, unlimited dreams. And what you shared, I hope people go back and listen to that multiple times. It's so inspiring. And there's truth behind it. You're not just talking, there's truth and energy behind that. And then we also talked about goals, right? Which tend to be a little more specific. Hey, I want to make 10,000 a month. And then this third piece. And this has been, I think we're all have different experiences, and that's what makes us all unique. And the combination of all our unique experiences makes up the whole. And I think pieces of God, right? And I've had these serendipitous moments. Like, I didn't know who Jim Rohn was, so that could have never been on my goal list. I didn't know that could have never been on my think big. Oh, I'll meet Jim Rohn and partner with him.
All right.
Those are that third piece. And I know you're very much connected to that. And that's being connected to the thing we don't know, being connected to that opportunity that can come to us. And I like to devote some time to that every day of asking, what I got my plan, but is there a better plan? Is there the unknown part? How much does that play into your world? And have you had those serendipitous, and that's the word I'm choosing to use, but have you had those things that you could have never planned that were life-changing for you, that opened up all kinds of opportunities?
Yeah, I was listening to Tom Brady yesterday, and he told the story of the Chinese farmer. I just heard it yesterday, so I don't want to, I'm going to try and tell it the way he did. But what happened was the Chinese farmer one day, one of his horses, he had a horse, and one of his horses ran away. I don't know if you heard the story before. And all the villagers came in and said, man, it's so terrible that you lost your horse. And the Chinese farmer said, maybe. And then a week later, that same horse came back with 10 or other wild horses. And all the villagers came back and said, man, that's incredible. You thought you lost the horse, but now you got 11 horses. And he said, well, maybe. And some time went by, and the farmer had a son. And the son one day was playing with one of these wild horses and broke his leg. And all the villagers came over and said, oh my God, this is terrible. Man, your son broke his leg. And he said, well, maybe. And some time went by and there was a war. And they came and they were trying to look for, people to enlist in the war. And they said his son couldn't go because he broke his leg. And they came out and they said, oh man, it's incredible. There's a war, but your son doesn't have to go because he broke his leg. He said, well, maybe. And the whole notion of it was sometimes things may happen good or bad, but you don't really know what the cause of that is, what the ripple effect of it is. So you may be watching this right now and you may be looking at your life and saying, man, things are falling apart. But the reality of it, there's this other force. There's this other source that's orchestrating things. And he's orchestrating things for your good. So even things that you think are bad or things that you think are so great, he has something great that's going to come out of that, something greater that's going to come out of that. So I've had to remind myself of that over the last 18 years. You never stop because the world is always attacking. I mean, see what's going on right now with COVID and, what happened in my personal life, it's an attack, but you got to keep your mind focused and you're focused on where it is that you're going, what your purpose is, what your goals are, what your vision is to impact other people.
That's such a great story. And again, every opportunity, everything's an opportunity to decide to be grateful, right? No matter how bad it might look, if you flip it, there's something to be grateful for, right? And back to what you're talking about, what we expect, what we think about, what we speak is so critical. And let me tie that back into something you said earlier about mentors. My experience is, as Jim Rohn said, who you spend time with matters. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if it's so cliche-ish, but it's so true, David. If you're around 5 pessimists, you're going to see things kind of that way. If you're around 5 dreamers who believe anything's possible, you're going to start to see the world that way. And so and we don't have much more time left. You mentioned mentors earlier. It's been a big part of your life, a big part of my life. Do you feel like that needs to be a reciprocal relationship? Is that something where if someone's wanting a mentor, do they bring their need or do they try and pick someone that they can bring value to? Like what's the dynamics of a mentorship type of relationship?
Yeah, no, it's always about bringing value. It's always going to be about bringing value. It's always going to be about serving. The mentors that I've had and the mentors that I have today, I look to serve. I look to give in any way, shape that I can, because I will say this, serving is a sign of humility, and humility gives you access. Humility gives you access into rooms and to people that you normally wouldn't have an opportunity to be around. So when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But the student becomes ready through serving.
Yeah, they need to know how to approach it, right? And that's if they bring their need is, instead of if they can bring their gift.
Yeah.
And I would say to leaders, some people's help you can't afford, right? Some people want to help you and you're like, thank you, but no, thank you. I got that covered. And so you have to have filtering systems to who you can bring into your life. But for me, I got to spend time with Paul J. Meyer. Not everyone knows who that is. He had 40 companies. His goal was to give away $1 billion. And he said, you have to let your people earn it. He's like, I don't delegate. I mentor. And when they've earned the right to take on the thing, because he said most people relegate or delegate instead of mentor. And to mentor the things you're trying to pass on, right? They have to earn that right, because now you have to trust them. And then he gave me the last piece. He said, you have to inspect what you expect. Absolutely. And that was a different mindset. And I got to tell you, as a leader, up until then, I had failed. But once I got that piece of making people respect it, earn the right for me to invest in them, and then inspect what I expect, wow, was able to build, and you talked about culture, a team. So mentorship's important, and both sides have to understand the dynamics, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I say, don't bring your need, bring your seed. Right. You know, you've got to be ready to plant. You've got to be ready to serve. But I did if you guys, I did an IG live maybe about a week ago on, are you sure you want to mentor? Like, are you sure about that? Because it's a different ballgame. I don't mentor a lot of people. I don't. Right now, I probably mentor 3 people. I coach thousands, but mentorship, that's a different ballgame. That's a life relationship, you know, that you enter into. And it's a tremendous amount of trust. It's a tremendous amount of vulnerability. I have to, I can't take it for granted as the mentor. The mentor doesn't control you, it doesn't manipulate you. And unfortunately, I've experienced that. So there's a fine line, you know, there's a fine line between manipulation and inspiration.
And there is that fine line too about how relationships shift. There have been people that were the perfect fit for me for a season. And then maybe I got that lesson, and maybe they got that lesson too. And we both said, we were ships that crossed, in the night, and it was magical, and it's exactly what I needed, but we're not destined the next 20 years to work together, and being okay with that too. Right. And
absolutely
not taking things personal and not making it. Rarely do I can't think of hardly ever me thinking it's someone else's fault. No. If they're not buying what I'm selling, it's like they're on a different path. If they don't need what I have, that's not their fault. And it's not my fault. It's us all just trying to play at our highest and attract the people that we can help and that can help us.
Mentorship is earned, but the right to mentor someone is earned too.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that every mentee eventually leaves their mentor.
Right.
Because my goal is for the mentee to outdo the mentor, to outperform the mentor. I don't think you're a great mentor unless your mentees outperform you. And that's a challenge for a lot of mentors out there. They think that the mentees should always be below them, and that's not true.
And that happens in the church sometimes. That's not just in business. And those are lessons both sides have to learn. You have to learn it as a leader. I did a post a while back about abusive leadership, and people will use the get out of jail card of, hey, I have to make someone feel uncomfortable. And they'll do anything, say anything, and it's almost cultish behavior. But I personally got to witness Jim Rohn and Dennis Waitley getting past everyone's defense mechanisms with truth. And they aren't abusive. You don't have to be abusive, but it's a lesson to learn. It's a lesson to learn that whether it's a husband or a wife or a mother or father or pastor or boss, that really no one has the right to be abusive. And that's just my personal philosophy.
Oh, that's the only philosophy to have. And it goes back to, do you love people?
Right.
If you love
some
them.
of these are hard lessons though. It's King Saul had to be exposed, right? We sometimes, the lessons for us to find ourselves triggered. But I did that as a leader. As a leader, I behaved badly at times. And I had to have someone give me feedback that, Kyle, that's not good. And some people are afraid to do that. And if you've created all this insulation between how you act and the feedback you get, it's almost inevitable. I've always said, on one end, people are being pushed down with fear and I can't do it. And then on the other end, success, it's like that's where, if we're not careful, our ego goes out of control and we're thinking we're it. And it really is the feedback from other people that we get to navigate that.
I tell people there's a way to keep your ego in check. There is a way. And there's 2 ways. Number one is you remember who the source is. Remember that you're not the source. You're a resource, but you're not the source. Remember who that is. And then 2, just remember where you came from. Because where you are today is not where you were 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So if you remember those two things, it allows you to keep your ego in check and stay humble.
And challenges help us become more empathetic. They're there for a reason that's multifaceted.
Yeah.
So two more quick things, David. Do you have any daily rituals, daily disciplines? And I see you working out on Instagram, so I know you do. But tell us a couple of things, the day in the life for you. You seem pretty structured, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a day in.
They're not rituals anymore. They're interwoven into who it is that I am. Every day it is going to be, I am going to give value to people every day. And every day I'm going to give love. And every day I'm going to have gratitude. That is what I do every single day. It's automatic. I don't have to think about it. It's not a ritual. I don't have to sit there and figure it out. No, it's automatic in everything that I do. Every conversation that I have, the images that are around me, the pictures that are around me, what I consciously see, what I subconsciously see. I'm constantly taking care of my spirit man. In order for my body to go and do the things that it needs to do, my spirit man and my mind, my soul has to be fed, has to be right. So prayer is one of them. The prayer is something I do all throughout the day. It's communication. Worship is another thing that I do. That's part of my gratitude. When I worship, I'm showing gratitude. So it's not a daily ritual. It's just the way I live my life.
Well, do you get up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time?
No, I don't go to bed at a certain time. I don't. But I'll probably wake up 7:30 around there.
Okay.
Around that
So you're kind of more of a flow guy. You're not.
Yeah.
And I do think everyone's wired differently, and you have to find out what works for you.
Yeah. I think the guys that say, honestly, it might be true, but some of the people that say that you wake up at this time, go to bed, I don't know.
I know some of those. I have a really good friend of mine, and he's in Los Angeles, and I've invited him to some incredible concerts. And there will be a big group of us going, Foo Fighters or, all these Switchfoot. And he's like, no, man, I go to bed at 9. And we don't even invite him anymore. And he's okay with that. He's like, no, I get up at 4, I go to bed at 9. And that's what makes me happy. And I'm like, well, that's what matters, right?
Absolutely.
Well, hey, David, you're putting on this incredible event. And from a guy that's put on a lot of events, I know how much work they are. And when you continue to do it, and this, you've done many, it really does mean you love people, because I always say you're putting on the party, right? You're going to spend $1 million putting on the party. Michelle Williams of Destiny's Child, John Maxwell. I mean, all these amazing people, 3 days, pulling out every stop. And, for a few $100s, people can come and experience this amazing party. So the biggest regret people have told me all these years is I never got to see Jim Rohn live, and then I had this big 3-day with Brian Tracy. And it's like, I missed it because of whatever. Well, you're going to have John Maxwell, and you're going to have all these amazing people, too many to mention. You're going to have a dozen big names. Yeah. I'm honored to be invited to the dance. Tell us a little bit about it, how people can sign up. I know I have people flying in from all over the country. I'm excited to see. And that's the other thing. When you go to an event, that's where the speakers are actually hanging out. I've heard many of them say, hey, I'm there all 3 days. And but tell us a little bit about that event.
Yeah, you can go to believenation.events to get your tickets. I believe we still have some gold tickets available. I think it's $297, $300 for a 3-day event. It's just, we've made it very cost effective for anyone who wants to be there. Anyone who has a dream, a goal, a desire, and wants to grow as a leader. You have a company, you have a ministry, business, you are a leader and you're looking to grow your leadership lid. This is an event you do not want to miss. We've got some of the very best. These are people that have led hundreds of thousands of people in various different ways, various different industries. And obviously you mentioned John C. Maxwell, who's in the millions of people. I think he's the greatest leadership teacher of our time. He will be there. Michelle Williams, Dr. Caroline Leaf. My mother is actually going to be one of the speakers. I'm so excited about that. Yourself, Kyle, Justin Owens, who's a multiple seven-figure earner in relationship marketing and branding, social media as well. You got Danny Bay, who's an industry legend, multiple eight-figure earner as well, coming out. Cassandra House, all the way from Australia. She's going to be there as well. We've got Anthony O'Neill as well, financial expert. It's helped a lot of people, learn how to manage their money, budget money right. And I'm just, I'm honored. I really am. I'm looking forward to sitting there and learning as well. And it's going to be an incredible show. I can tell you that. We've pulled no punches on this one. So I know they're going to enjoy it.
BelieveNation.events. I'm going to have a link where people can go. I really encourage you to be there. I look forward to seeing everyone that decides to attend. And I just want to thank you for putting the event on, David. Again, I've done these events, and it is more work and effort, and you're at the mercy of hotels and airlines, and there's all kinds of dynamics that, and so I encourage people to take advantage. We had COVID happen, and all of a sudden there weren't live events.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a live event. I'm so strong with this. It's like, and I always tell people, it's like the reason I'm so strong, whether it was Jim Rohn or, Brian Tracy or Dennis Waitley, it's like, this might not ever happen again. You don't know. You might not get to see John Maxwell again.
Yeah.
Don't take it for granted. And here you're putting it on a large scale. It's not one of these pitch fest where every speaker's trying to sell you into a $20,000 whatever. This is really well done. I wouldn't be speaking at it if I say no to 95% of the invites I get. So I'm honored to be part of it. And I just want to thank you for putting it on. I want to thank you for taking time today to spend with me, David. What you've done's incredible. How can people follow you on social media? How can they get on your email list? What are some of the best ways?
Yeah, at David Imonitie on Instagram or Facebook is probably the best way. You can go to believenation.com as well. We're creating a circle of trust where we're going to invite people in to be a part of what it is that we're doing on a daily basis, where they'll have daily coaching and mentorship in 7 different pillars, helping people grow spiritually, emotionally, leadership, relationships, health, finance, and in their purpose and their contribution. So definitely excited about 2022 and what's going to happen over the next 10 years.
Well, hey, listen, this conversation today is going to make me better, and I'm excited to go back and re-listen to it and to continue to get me some more of David, and because what you've done's amazing.
Thank you, sir.
Who you are is amazing. So looking forward to seeing you in 3 weeks, and thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kyle, and congratulations. I mean, it's one thing to have success. It's another thing to do it over a few decades and to have the impact that you've had and on people's lives. It's remarkable. And I'm really glad people are going to get a chance to hear you and learn from you as well once again. So thank you again for having me.
Hey, thank you, David.
All right, buddy.